Dia Bryant. I am the Interim Executive Director at the Education Trust New York. For the Action Accelerator, we actually did a set of focus groups to determine what parents, and specifically parents of color in New York State, were interested in when it came to assessments this year, given that the pandemic disrupted so much of student learning. Of course, our priorities are still around assessments. Focus right now is advocating for those exams to take place. We are thinking a lot about maybe a cute little third grader who was in third grade in 2019 and took an exam, and we won't have information about the child's learning until they're in grade 6 if the assessments are stopped. And that is very worrisome for any number of reasons, but particularly because it doesn't allow us to be intentional about the instruction that we provide to the student. I think that a lot of what came out of our Action Accelerator project actually drove our messaging. We were able to understand what messages stuck with parents, which ones were sort of alarming and were not useful or effective. And the focus groups basically drove how that messaging would live. And we ended up landing on some messaging around like the COVID has been bad, right? But for many students who experienced the inequities before COVID, um, they are disproportionately disadvantaged, you know, or maybe experiencing even more disadvantage. And leveraging that sort of messaging, we've been able to continue our assessment work. And by holding the focus groups, we were able to understand a little bit of the uh, nuance in those arguments. Specifically, there were parents who were saying like, we want the tests, but I don't know if I want to send my kid back to a building. Is there a way that we can do this remotely? There were parents who said, we want the tests, we need that information. And, you know, is there a way to think about, you know, giving it differently? Like, do we have to put them in a standardized environment? So that helped to build sort of our understanding of what parents wanted and what parents needed the assessments to be. And I think there is what you're speaking to, which is this future arm where assessments are inclusive, respectful of differences across learning modalities and learning preferences. I think the future of assessments actually measures learning and provides a path forward for students that is differentiated, specific, and unique to the needs of children. It validated this feeling of like data only being part of the story. And many of my colleagues in the accelerator did community-based focus groups. And it's so powerful when you hear back from community members what's important to them in this moment. And particularly because we've never been through a moment like COVID and systemic racism all at the same time. So it was really great to hear folks be driven by community and data informed, right? To really use what they knew, but to texturize and color that picture with what communities needed. You know, I would love to see something around like BIPOC led organizations and how these organizations are thinking about the work. I think that's one way to think about it. I think you could also think through rural communities and rural areas and how they've done assessments both in the past and now. And I would venture to say that collectively as a country, we have a lot to learn from rural communities about how assessments happen. So I think what you got right was the composition of groups, right? The diversity of both geographic and political landscapes that they represented, and really understanding the extent to which equity could be discussed in one environment like New York versus another environment similar to Ohio or Arizona. And watching and being alongside my colleagues as they wrestled with those ideas was both enlightening and it was really a catalyst to continue the work and really just added fuel to the fire that we still got a lot of work to do. So I think that was definitely one thing. I also really enjoyed just the intimate conversations and the relationships that were built with the Seek Common Ground crew. I kind of consider you all a extension of our Ed Trust family. So it's been great to get to know you all as well.